So I got to turn it off. What's up, Facebook peeps? So I'm going to go ahead and do the share now so it's not, you know what I mean? I think I want to dance. You may have to pull down to refresh because it's not showing up on my feed yet either. Oh, there we go.
He goes all the way up. He goes out of soprano just to go all the way up. But
All right, so I got us there.
you know, when he goes to the studio, just like, what's this motherfucker? This is stupid. And then it's like one of his greatest hits.
I know. Like you said, don't have to be boo boo. That's what it sounds like. You said. All right, let's check the sound on the back side.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Here we go. Let me check the sound on the. Here we go. Check the sound. Test 1 2, test 1 2, pop 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 pop.
1 2 3.
Test 1 2, test 1 2, pop pop pop. That's
pop,
good,
pop.
right?
Yeah. 1 2 3.
I'm gonna cut that. I need to cut Prince, right?
Yeah. Should we suggest people share?
Yeah, absolutely. Do it now while I'm loading the music.
Hey, everybody tuning in. If y'all could do us a big favor, it would help us
Solid.
on our surge. If you could share to your page.
Yeah, just
like
share it.
I'm doing right now.
Share it, share it. Some people, it makes them feel uncomfortable to do that, but
Yeah.
I can, whatever.
We're going to ask.
We're going to ask, please. Please,
Like,
please.
please share to your page.
Let's see. Cool. Yeah, it's success. You
Was it
successfully
successful?
shared. Yeah.
All right.
Good job.
All right.
Good job, Colin.
Yeah. Good God.
As my daughter would say, every time I do something good, lyric goes, "Good job, Dad." Like she's the parent.
She's so obnoxious.
All right. So here, I want to do the intro. Then we'll do the audio.
All right.
This is Scott.
This is Colin.
And we are
Two
Rational Bastards.
Uh-oh.
Here you go, Colin. We'll give it to you.
You can't see my legs wiggle.
Stupid.
Oh,
let's see if we can get it right this time.
I never miss. I never hit it. I miss it every time. It don't matter how many times. Just like,
We need to count it down.
I don't know. What's the cadence on it?
It's so off.
It's like, but it's off but on though.
Yeah.
I mean, it still makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just on a different. You know what it reminds me of? When they told James Brown that it's wrong to hit your music on a downbeat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when he made up, like,
Yeah.
how do you make up a beat? But it's just like all of his music sounds so funky and
Yeah.
off because it's the down.
It's the best. Yeah. Well, and even his cadence in his voice. Was
Yeah,
like
how
it,
he would sing and everything, and that's kind of like what that beat comes in, all random, almost random.
All right, so I'm going to start the audio portion.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to another episode of Two Rational Bastards, broadcasting live from Rose Garden Studios, just north of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Scott.
It's Colin.
Colin, a couple of weeks we're off. Dude, every time we say we're going to get back on track, something happens. But you know what? things work out for us. We do shows when they're supposed to happen, and we're never going to create a show that is uncomfortable and not work. We could have done one last week. It would have been delayed.
It'd have been weird.
And it would have been off. We've had some things going on, but we're really going to try to commit to be on a schedule this time.
A lot of transitions. Right now I'm doing a couple of extra things, and I'm just making sure that I get all my ducks in a row. I'm back into promotion, man.
Yeah.
I'm promoting downtown for a bar, doing security at another, and doing the personal training thing, and also doing boot camps. So I'm grinding a little bit there.
Slightly, right?
Grinding.
So just real quick, Richard Roberts says hi to you, Colin.
Hey, what's up, Rich?
A couple of things. Like you said, you got some transitional things, which have all been good things, right? We've had some things that have been going really well, but we're committed to try to keep this on track because we need it for us more than
I need it, man. The priming we did ahead of time where we were just unpacking and joking with each other, that right there is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
That fuck a therapist, you know what I mean? I'm good.
I agree, man. And so you got here about 9:00. Maybe before that. I think it was a little bit before that.
Right, it was before that.
Yeah, 8:45, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously we could have started early, and we're going to try to commit to getting started earlier. But we had a lot of catching up to do. I mean, we've talked on the phone, but the face-to-face stuff is so much more key. Important. So anyway, next week our priming will not, be as a long process and get us started later. But no worries.
I don't know that it was that much longer, but I got here a little bit later than I had planned, and then that threw us off on the prime, but we didn't take away from it, and we got to meditate, which we don't always get to do on 11/11.
Yeah, so which will probably happen less often going forward because we'll be getting started earlier. But the key to us meditating again has been huge too.
Absolutely.
So anyway, man, a lot of things going on in the world right now since we last talked. There's things that I don't want to cover just because I don't want to be in that space.
Don't want to cover that.
But
I don't know
because
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I do not want to even mention it.
Yeah, because it could be a fire and fury like the world has never seen, and I just don't want to go down there.
Come on.
But we'll start. I know you got it, and I'm not. People are surprised whenever they ask me, "Hey, Scott, do you watch Game of Thrones?"
Yeah,
and
he doesn't.
It's cricket, and it's not that I don't want to. But my fear is because of the way that I am and my personality is, and that's what happened to me on Walking Dead. That's why I've not missed an episode since, is I got introduced to The Walking Dead going from L.A. when we lived in L.A.
Right.
I was on a flight from L.A. to Connecticut, and they had an in-flight preview of the first season. And I watched like 3 episodes, and the plane landed, and they cut the TVs off, and I was pissed. I was pissed because it was like in the middle of episode 3 or the start of 4. On the first season, and I rushed to the hotel and tried to watch it. So I was hooked. The bad thing is I binge watched it until I caught up to, I think it was season 3 by the time I started the process. So I know that's what I'll do with Game of Thrones because I know that I will like it.
Right.
And so I fear introducing myself to it because then you won't see me. Colin be like, "Hey, we're gonna do a show." No, I'm binge watching.
I gotta finish up. They cut his head off. Oh my god. Well, for me, I was a little bit intimidated that it'd be a horrible ending, like the Dexter horrible ending, like you said, the Friends, and then there was a couple of Breaking Bad was a horrible ending, but
and Sopranos, son of a bitch.
Man, why would you? Anyway. I am so impressed with some of these new shows like The Walking Dead. I don't care how they end it. It's been such a pleasant process of watching those episodes and how they use psychology for the basis or the underground basis of how they interact with each other, just how they look at each other.
Yeah.
You could tell when someone's being dominated, when someone's inferior or superior, or how they even try to break somebody's will.
Yeah.
And it's just neat to see those examples of that because it's extreme examples of what we have to deal with day to day with each other.
Yeah.
Our body language is 94% of how we communicate, and it's nonverbal, and that's most of it.
Yep.
But when you put it under the microscope, like some of these really good shows do, it's so brilliant.
No, I agree. It is a psychology lesson. I think a lot of people, which I think is brilliant about that, because
it's a visual.
It is. It's visual, and then the verbal and all that. It hits a lot of the cues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about it is a lot of people aren't realizing they're getting a psychology lesson watching those episodes.
Right. Oh, that was a great episode last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. And as we all know, if you want to hypnotize yourself in a inconspicuous way, add your emotions, add the visual, and add all the elements of all the undertone things, and you will have that lesson more readily available to you.
This brings us something key. So we may have mentioned this on one of the episodes. I'm not sure, but there's a person that we're going to have on. She works for the Tennessee State Board of Regents,
right?
And she's in emerging technologies for the state, and she travels the world talking about new technologies. Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up again is the new virtual reality and virtual goggles and stuff that you wear. They're now including they're in development to make sense and taste to be involved in that as well. So you'll immerse yourself fully into this world. So it will hit all those senses that you're talking about.
Virtual reality, like really virtual reality.
And I was lucky. I got because she's a customer of mine, a real estate customer, and I got to tour her house. She has this whole media room that has all this stuff that you've never seen come to market, that will never come to market because the big companies have bought it and kind of hiding it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing that she'll be able to talk about when she's on.
Right.
But I got to look at some of the new virtuality and the things that they've changed, so you don't feel
Star Wars.
Well, yeah. So where you don't feel like right now, because Kona has it. You can't. You get up, it throws you off.
Right.
My son has the Google the VR headset, and we did the virtual roller coaster. It makes you feel dizzy and kind of nauseated.
It does give you vertigo.
So with these, they've corrected that to where you really can walk around with them on.
Really?
If you're safe, you don't want to fall downstairs, but you don't feel dizzy because they've corrected the vision, and it's amazing how it looks and how it feels. And I can't imagine when they introduce the scent and taste into it.
That'd be crazy.
It's unreal. So anyway, so we always do a quote, right?
That's right.
So yeah, right. So before I get to the quote, Richard said, "Good to see you guys," and then Courtney says, "Hey, Colin, miss you at the gym." Courtney Epperson.
Hey, Courtney.
So your limits to success are defined by the agreement you've made about what's possible. Change that agreement and you can dissolve all these limits. We talk about that kind of stuff quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
And this brings up, actually, that'd be another thing, but I love that, man.
Well,
absolutely love that. Can I read it again?
Yeah.
Your limits to success are defined by the agreement you've made about what's possible. Change that agreement and you can dissolve all these limits.
And that's the thing, like, just real quick. When you make a statement like "I can't," that's your contract. That's the agreement you've made with yourself that you are limited, and that's what you're going to attract. Your focus is going to be on that belief, and what you believe is what you make true. And I know that's so quirky and so whatever, but that's actually what it is. I mean, if you believe something, whether it is or isn't, you will make it so.
Yeah.
And I get tired of mentioning this guy, but Conor McGregor, when you go back and look at some of the things that he predicted, like he was on welfare, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah.
And back then he mentioned that he was going to be in partnership with the UFC. It's a $3 billion company. And he said that he would have a partnership with them when he had nothing. And he's in partnership with them now.
Yeah.
Like within less than 2 years. It's coming from, like, when he stated it, it was 50 G's baby. That was his first fight that he won fight of the night. He got 50 G's as the prize, and then made that statement around that time. Yeah. And then to be right here, and now he's going to make close to 50 billion. Exaggerate, hyperbole. Yeah. But $50 million
from one fight.
Yeah. And he's a UFC guy. Yeah. These guys only make maybe $20,000 a fight. I mean, it's crazy. It's just amazing.
It really is, and that's the setting the intention and the mindset, right?
Setting the attention and not letting the evidence of what's happening so far set that state. You know, it would be easy to believe that, it's not possible to make millions.
Yeah.
But he's changed the whole narrative now.
Well, setting the intention and then taking advantage of those opportunities that pop up from the intention that he set. I think that's what people miss a lot of times. They'll set the intention and they don't recognize those things that are going to get them to that point.
Right.
That pop up around them, the relationships of the people that they meet or the things that they read. They're there, but we ignore them a lot of times, right?
Exactly.
One, because they make you uncomfortable, right?
Well, and we collectively agree that abnormality is normal. So that based on that, you know, we create weird beliefs, I think.
So did you hear my voice? What am I going through puberty?
I guess so.
So it's funny.
Michael J. Fox.
His son. It's funny, man. My son is, you know, this last year he's hit that phase where his voice has changed.
Right.
And he a lot of times tries to whisper because his voice is up and down. So I don't know. Maybe I'm, you know, that thing where like sometimes if your wife's pregnant, you'll maybe I'm going through it too with him, and I don't know. Anyway, so we've got the big solar eclipse coming up Monday.
Right.
So I don't know what your plans are.
I'm looking straight into it.
I can't see you, Scott. So I have to walk you in like Ray Charles. I got a woman. Yeah.
Well, time.
So I'm gonna have to walk you.
Why's Colin singing Ray Charles all the time? You didn't know he was blind since the eclipse?
It's the damn eclipse.
He set the wrong intention. He said he was gonna do it, and he did it. And now look
what happened to him. You can't see. So we're gonna obviously I'm you know blocking my schedule off and not you know working with clients that day and things like that. We're gonna spend the day because the kids are out of school.
Right.
So, I mean, it's the once in a lifetime kind of thing. And Tennessee's in the path, you know, not the whole country's in the path of the eclipse. The whole world's not. So we're going to get to see something. It's going
to be a big influx of people coming in too.
I want to say that Gallatin, Tennessee or somewhere around there has one of the longest time frames of full total eclipse. I can't recall if it's there, but it's somewhere close by, maybe in Kentucky.
Right.
But anyway, it made me think. So I did some research, and 92% of the people in the path of the total solar eclipse voted for Donald Trump.
Uh-oh.
Here's what I find ironic about that. The last thing they wanted to do was make America darker.
Hey! Boo.
Isn't that great? You like that, don't you? Don't lie. You like it.
That was brilliant.
So, anyway, that's. I'll be here all week. So everybody, you know, if you're tuning in for our second show and it's been a while, let's say you skipped a couple of episodes. Let's say you didn't listen to the last one. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you, podcast listeners, if you skipped the last one. But we'll say it again. I'm not going to go through the segments, but we're segmented now. Instead of doing whole story shows, we're segmented. We will still have story shows when we have guests. It'll be about them and stuff like that. Or if there's something major that we want to spend a whole episode on. But primarily, I'd say 95% of the time, our show is going to be segmented.
Formatted.
Yeah, formatted. That's right. What did I say? Well, they are segments, but formatted, like you say. So we're not going to go through those now. You'll get the feel of what we're doing. So, Colin, I'm going to let you go first. What are you going to cover? And I'll try to tag in it.
Well,
I have to.
You know, like we said last time, there's no specific order.
No.
But I want to start with a current event.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And just to go light, I know there's a lot of things going on in politics and all that.
I'll pull up mine
I'm not really interested in taking a negative tone today in any way.
I have a lot of stuff. Okay.
But I am 43 years old. And since I was born, there's been a lot of neat things that's happened and a lot of weird things. You know, the wall came down. I mean, there's an impeachment of a president within my lifetime. There's been lots of weird trends come in. Disco being one of them. I mean, it came in literally like a summer and a half, and it was gone. It was just like, it's Bee Gees, and just like, and then it was gone.
Glorious. Yeah.
It was gone. But there was a thing that came up a year before I was born. It was actually August 11th, 1973. Kool Herc was 18 years old, and he's actually a Jamaican American, and he did a house party for going back to school, and that was the first house party that you could consider to be hip hop back in 73.
Really?
Back in 73. So by the time I was born, you had a trend that had been that's been started in my lifetime. And I know that sounds arrogant, but you know, a lot of eras have different things that happen. In the 20s, you had that jazz and swinging,
ragtime,
and you know, the 50s, you had rock and roll was born, and just you have neat things that were created. And I'm very proud of hip hop because it's 44 years old as of 4 days ago.
Wow.
You know
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, 4 days ago. And if you put in hip hop anniversary, you can go to Google. It'll have this Google app. A good friend of mine, Wallace Hudson. Wale.
Where are you, man? Speak up. You're listening.
He sent me the day of, and they have like a turntable on there that you can kind of scratch on and sample some stuff. It's pretty cool. But the neat thing about it is it didn't go mainstream until Sugar Hill Gang came out with Rapper's Delight in 1979. If you look it up, it'll say 80, but that's when it was the most popular. It hit. It was created in 79 and it hit in 80. So 44 years old hip hop is.
That's unreal.
You know what I'm saying? Like that was the first official.
I think people probably feel like that it didn't come about until the late 90s or so, or late 90s, right?
Right. But by the time you had, you know, some of the you know, we consider the greatest. I mean, of course, Tupac is the greatest. Of course, Biggie is the greatest. It had only been around maybe 10 years by the time they came out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? A lot of people didn't realize that Biggie had an LP 5 years before. So he actually came out around the same time as we was listening to Kumo D and all of them. You know, it just really isn't that old.
Think about how different that sound is.
Exactly.
Biggie and Kumo D.
Basketball is my favorite sport. I like it when it dribbles up and down the court. I went to one of their concerts and Pee Wee Herman.
I'm sorry.
I'm like, dude, it's so different.
Hey,
now.
Speaking of that, you remember when we went to, God, what was that called? They did the like Dancing in the District Riverfront Park thing. You remember we went to see? It was Kanye West.
Yes.
Right after his big, what was it? College Dropout.
College Dropout.
His album had hit.
And he introduced
John Legend.
And
remember, we were like, "Damn, this guy is phenomenal.
He's gonna be awesome." And look at
him. He introduced John Legend. That's crazy. Okay. Do you remember? I tell you.
Is he crying? What's he doing?
Yeah. Do you remember what music they were playing to prime for that? Which I'm actually surprised it was. Well, I guess I'm not. But do you remember what songs they were playing a lot? What album they were playing? It was 50 Cent's album. As they were playing his big album was the one they were playing before Kanye came on. That was his music he used to prime. So,
dude, I don't even remember yesterday.
I don't know why I remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
You got a photographic memory, and I don't remember anything.
Well, I don't remember most things, but
just
for some reason,
Colin.
some reason I do remember that. I don't know why.
So, well, people like, Colin, you're really good at staying in the moment. It's like, yeah, because I can't remember the last.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna do. This is kind of a current event, but not really mainstream current. I had this like really for the last show, but I just want to hit on this real quick. Cool. Is the CT issues in the NFL. Okay. And I'm going to totally probably destroy, and I know I think it was Wallace that said guys, you need to learn to pronounce these things before you say it because it makes you sound like you don't know. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about. So
exactly, we research it and hope and pray,
and I hope that you then go do the research and find out.
And they're like, oh, they mispronounced that too.
Yeah. So CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, known as CTE. I don't know. I probably butchered that. I'm sure it is.
Just say the acronym.
Yeah, CTE. It has been found in 99% of deceased NFL players' brains that were donated to scientific research. The neurodegenerative brain disease can be found in individuals who have been exposed to repetitive head trauma. The disease is pathologically marked by a buildup of abnormal protein in the brain that can disable neuropathways and lead to a variety of clinical symptoms. These include memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, aggression, depression, anxiety, impulse control issues, and sometimes suicidal behavior.
Right.
If you think about it, a lot of the known like Junior Seau and people, I mean, he committed suicide. He had, CTE. A lot of these guys are experiencing this.
Will Smith, just a quick footnote. Will Smith did a movie called Concussion.
Yeah.
Go see that. That will educate you. And I know it's common, but our kids in football, you might want to reconsider that.
And soccer too.
Soccer, boxing, wrestling. I know it's a Debbie Downer, but
yeah. Here's the thing about this is it can only be formally diagnosed with an autopsy.
Wow.
And so let me see here. Out of 202 deceased former football players, a combination of high school, college, professional players, CTE was neuropathologically diagnosed in 177 of those.
How many?
202.
Wow, I can't believe that there was any that didn't have it.
The disease was identified in 110 of 111 former NFL players. So I can see why in the lower the high school and college, especially high school, the hits aren't as hard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And when you get to the NFL level, you're playing most of the time. Maybe at those lower levels you're not playing as much. From start of the whistle to the end. It was also found in let me say that part again. The disease was identified in 110 of 111 former NFL players.
Yeah, that's 99%.
It was also found in 3 of the 14 high school players and 48 of the 53 college players. You see how it went up higher at college because they're hitting hard.
Right. Yeah. More weight.
Exactly. The study included brains of individuals who have been publicly confirmed to have had the disease: Ken Stabler, Kevin Turner, Bubba Smith, and Dave Durison. Of course, Dave Durison was a Chicago Bears during the time when they won with Jim McMahon at quarterback and all that, Walter Payton, that era.
Right. And concussion, honestly, is just a slick dickery way of saying brain damage.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And NFL's trying to do, and we did a show on the NFL back on the old show, right? Didn't we do it under the other old show where we talked about some other things there? But they're trying to get the wording so it sounds softer.
Of course.
Call it what it is.
Of course. He's got a slight concussion.
Yeah.
If you put brain damage on it, people be like, oh.
And let's talk about that. A concussion is your brain is bleeding.
Right.
And let's call it that,
Right.
I have a brain bleeding.
You got slight brain bleeding.
Yeah. Brain's not supposed to do that. Individuals who reported to have experienced more behavioral mood symptoms during their lifetime were more likely to have findings indicative of a mild disease as opposed to severe. These symptoms occurred in 96% of mild cases and 89% of severe cases. People with mild buildup and distribution of the protein were also more likely to have died by suicide.
Wow.
It's amazing. Those with a more severe buildup, on the other hand, were more likely to have experienced cognitive symptoms such as memory loss.
I have a question. Okay, memory loss, of course.
What did you just ask me?
Was Parkinson's in there? I didn't ask you yet. Was Parkinson's in there anywhere?
It doesn't say anything about that.
But I wonder. I want to look that up.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it could be. I did some highlights. I didn't want to read the entire report. And this was a report by the Journal of American Medicine. So the JAMA, it's, well known. And I'll, of course, link this up in the show notes and within the notes of the Facebook feed once we cut off, so you can read and find out for yourself.
Perfect.
So anyway, kind of scary. And so I can kind of lighten this up.
I'm going to lighten it up too.
Yeah, so. Good. So I'm going to lighten it up. And this kind of ties in because it's medical. And I wrote this down. I recently I go yearly to get my physical. And I typically do it around my birthday so I can remember.
Right. That's
smart. It just makes it easier so you don't forget. So, and I've always had this problem, and I had to say, if the doctor makes you take off your clothes, he has to provide somewhere to put your clothes. It's just never anywhere to put. It's bad enough I have to sit in this cold exam room wearing a paper dress. I also have to cradle all my clothes in my arms like I'm boarding a train to a German camp. You've got $1 million worth of equipment in there. How about a hook on the wall? Yes, I could pile my clothes up on top of a hazardous waste container or the table where dozens of men get their prostate exams every day. But on second thought, I'll just hold them. Forget it. So I asked my daughter, I was like, why do you got, really? Where do I put my clothes? I'm telling this is I can't be the only one.
Well, out of all that you just said, the only thing that my brain was processing was, why haven't y'all discovered something less primitive than your finger in my butt to check my prostate? I'm sick of this. Just like, can we do an x-ray? Why do you gotta, okay, well, that seems a little bit, that's normal. No, this is not normal.
It's like in Fletch, he goes, Doc, you using the whole hand there? He goes, Moon River. But I remember, so I was living in California when I got my first prostate exam.
Yeah.
I had a female doctor.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I went in for and she was more a holistic kind of doctor, try to treat things, naturally and stuff, but she would steer you medically to traditional medicine if need be.
That's cool. Well, that's California though.
Yeah. So I was in, normal exam. She was phenomenal. And, she goes, okay, go ahead and turn around and drop your pants. I'm like, yeah, we're doing what? We're what? You didn't tell me. She said, if I had told you, you may have canceled your appointment. So I was like, well, okay. So, that's very uncomfortable.
Let me grab the call.
So anyway, it's not pleasant. So anyway,
not at all. Well,
so before we segue, let me just make sure we don't have. I don't see. We always want to kind of read if anybody's had any questions through Facebook here. I want to take a break here. Nothing new. We've got okay. Derek Allen, what's going on, Colin? I see you blowing up. So, so that's all, man. So go ahead. Colin.
Well, like I said, I'm going to lighten it up, and this is actually something that a lot of people feel like is a negative thing, and it can be if you do it in excess. If you drink too much water, you can drown, but if you drink just enough, you're gonna hydrate yourself.
Right.
Water can be dangerous, but we all know we need it. The craziest thing today, we were talking about how good coffee makes us feel.
Yeah.
And it's like a guilty pleasure, but there's no reason to feel guilty. Coffee is actually some of the most holistic things that you could put into your body in moderation. Like I do it once or twice a week, but there's a lot of benefits that you can get from doing it once a day. I did a couple of different research. Coffee, if you drink it once a day.
So how much?
I'm trying to be careful here.
Is it like 8 ounces? Is that what they're probably?
A cup of coffee, so 8 ounces. Yeah. I'm trying to be careful here because anytime scientists use the word may help cancer, that's their slick dickery way of saying it definitely helps cancer, or it definitely helps this or that or the other. It may help colon cancer in women. It may help Parkinson's disease. So that's why I was asking you earlier if the brain trauma. The coolest thing about coffee is it's acidic. Mm-hmm. It's highly acidic. It's like 4 on the alkaline scale. So just to give you an example, 7's neutral, 14 is as high as you can go, and 1 being the most acidic. You have this coffee that you can drink that's actually 4 in the acidity. So a lot of us don't realize that cancer thrives in in a cancerous or in a acidic situation. So if you increase your alkalinity, you're going to give it a hostile environment to survive in. Well, the weirdest thing is, as acidic as it is, it has, because it's organic and it's a coffee bean, and that coffee bean is the antioxidants that's the 5th highest of all foods that exist on the planet. The 5th highest.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. The caffeine that occurs in the coffee bean is naturally occurring. So it's caffeine in a way that your body can actually reap the benefit from it. So when you drink coffee, and disclaimer, and then drink like a Red Bull or an energy drink, it doesn't have all the antioxidants. And let me, I want to get the exact amount, or the exact vitamins. You have magnesium, you have potassium. Now, when you have potassium and magnesium and naturally occurring in a fruit or vegetable, what it is the ratio is correct typically. So if when you have magnesium, you want the potassium to be a 3-to-1 ratio. So that's a naturally occurring thing. You have B5, B2, B3, better known as niacin. You have B1, have vitamin C, vitamin E. So the funny thing about it is, as acidic as it is, it has all these antioxidants that counteract it. They're massively interact with your body in a way that is actually anti-aging.
Can I punch in here? I'm sorry. Do you mind? And here's why I think this ties into that. I don't want to lose this train.
No, you're fine.
So we've talked about this in the nutrition on the past episode about how when I just realized I was way far from the mic, Colin. You should have said, dude, scoot up.
I didn't know you.
I'm so sorry. Because I faded out. I was listening to you. You were teaching me, man. I loved it. So the thing is the Red Bull is an isolated caffeine.
Right.
The coffee has all the micro phytonutrients that you need, all the support. Just like when you eat an apple, you can try to simulate vitamin C and vitamin A synthetically, but you don't get all the supporting micronutrients.
Phytochemicals, exactly.
So I needed
no, that's great. And that's a funny thing. Like when you get a vitamin bottle and they went to a lab and they put vitamin C in there, that's ascorbic acid.
Right.
Okay, so just to put that in perspective, ascorbic acid is minus 6 molecules that it needs to be vitamin C. Ascorbic acid is not vitamin C. Even though there are benefits in ascorbic acid, it'd be like me saying, I got a Lamborghini, Scott, you want to buy it? Man, you could have it for $10,000. And you'd be like, hell yeah. And then you go out back and it's just the frame and the shell with paint on it.
Well, then you have to dose it up to get more benefit. It's still lacking. And then guess what it does? It has a negative benefit on your liver, right?
Well, the other point I was trying to make is the fact that when you eat an apple, it has millions of phytochemicals that we will never discover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It takes a lot of money to take research and the politics behind it. And is this going to benefit this and this and that and the other? So scientists, they have agenda and the different things that they're looking for. So holistics isn't high on that list typically.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be something that's going to be some money return in some type of way. So there's millions of phytochemicals in an apple that we don't know about that interact inadvertently, like you were saying, with all the other things that we know about to make it more naturally occurring. So when you drink coffee, Red Bull could never stack up to a coffee. But here's the neat thing. When you drink coffee, things like diabetes, type 2 diabetes, it makes your body utilize your glucose 10 times more efficiently. So what that means is, if you want to talk about diabetes, what diabetes is glucose is in your blood and your pancreas has to shoot that same amount of insulin to force the glucose into the cell. Whatever's left over is just remnants in the bloodstream unless you can store it as glycogen in the muscle or the liver. Get that? Or the liver. So you are just fire. Imagine having a gun that has to keep firing at something if it's still there. I mean, if zombies are coming towards you and you got to shoot them in the head to stop them, if there's still some out there, you can't leave that one there. You're going to have to reload and keep firing. Well, that's what your pancreas does. Bah, 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 bah. And when you have too much in your liver and too much glycogen in your muscle, and you can't convert it fast enough into fat, what you have is a situation where you're shooting too many bullets, too much insulin, too much work for your pancreas, which is what we call type 2 diabetes. So when you're more efficient at utilizing for instance, 10 times more efficient by drinking coffee in moderation, remember, what you're doing is creating a situation where you're pushing more insulin actually into the cell where it's supposed to be. It's actually poisonous to your body and the bloodstream. So I'll say all that to say this. It literally obliterates the possibility of a fatty liver, and it eliminates the high risk that Americans, because we eat so much starch and so much sugar and blah, 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 it reduces that effect on our body, turning into the situation where we have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is not something that you're born with. That's type 1. Type 2 is actually circumstantial. So one of the neat things that I wanted to share here, and I'm trying to get this out quickly because I want to make sure all this content it's important to me, and it might be important to some people out there that might be dealing with hyper.
Well, a lot of people suffer
and diabetes.
A lot of people. So it's important. Yeah.
Even type 1 diabetes. You have the fatty liver situation. One of the signs that you might have, you might have seen this before, but black rings on your neck is a sign of a fatty liver and an extremely musky smell. So if you notice any of those signs, you know that your liver is struggling, and you can start incorporating things like holistic things like coffee and, once a day, and exercise and blah, blah, blah. But out of all the things that are there that you could say negatively about coffee, one of the most important ones is the acidity of coffee being 3.5 to be exact. It's very acidic. So you could take sodium bicarbonate, the very substance that your pancreas produces, better known as baking soda, put just a pinch of it in your coffee, and it will raise the alkalinity of your coffee. You can raise it all the way up to 7, but it will change the taste a little bit. But if you raise it up to 5 or 6, that's less of an acidity that your body can deal with. And now you eliminate one of the cons and astrobate the pro. So I just want to share that.
So real quick, and this ties in because this is we answer questions in between segments, and this is perfect timing. Courtney Epperson asked, I've been trying to switch to black coffee to stay away from creamers and sugars.
Right.
What would be the best brand for these positive effects and taste? So first of all, black coffee, because it's darker, it's not been filtered. That's the best way to go.
Black coffee.
If you can do organic, it's going to be more beneficial because coffee is one of the most heavily pesticides foods available.
Right.
So if you can find
other than lettuce,
lettuce and strawberries are a whole list. The Dirty Dozen, search that, you'll see some other foods that you need to make sure you at all possible do organic. Coffee is one of those because and it also releases a lot of those things because it stores it when you heat it,
right,
more so than a lot of things. So you don't want to put those toxins into your body. So try to get certified organic trade if you can. It's more expensive,
right,
but you'll like it. Also, look at possibly doing yerba mate, YERBA mate. Just
boo.
Try to get unsmoked yerba mate. You steep it just like you do a tea and drink it. It's got kind of a weird flavor, but it has a lot of the same benefits so it gives you an alternate. So you can have black coffee a few days and then switch it up and do yerba mate. It's not going to be as strong or get a caffeine effect that you would black coffee, but they call it kind of the superpower green tea is what yerba mate is.
Right.
So look that up. It's a great resource. So I hope Courtney.
I'm glad you mentioned green tea.
Yeah.
Green tea is another great source, but it's nowhere near as potent as coffee. Coffee is the mecca.
Well, think about this real quick, and then we'll move
naturally occurring
on.
caffeine.
We'll move on. caffeine is a vasodilator, right? So think about the benefits of what that happens to your vessels, and when those nutrients in the coffee, it's being able to be delivered much better too.
Delivered much better, and yes, it's a vasodilator. And you're thinking, well, wouldn't that increase the plausibility of high blood pressure if you didn't have such a high antioxidant? Mm-hmm. Remember that even if you didn't put sodium bicarbonate in there, what you're doing is it's such a high antioxidant that the adverse effects of the aging, all that other is anti-aging. It counteracts each other. So it kind of counteracts each other. But if you put that sodium bicarbonate in there, you actually reap more of the benefit of the antioxidant descent.
So here's something interesting. This is, I know it's a current event. This is kind of a health thing I want to talk about, that synchronicity ties into your thing there.
No way.
So I laughed a second ago. This happens quite a bit. This is some research that they are doing on the Israeli Deathstalker scorpion. Okay. So I'm just going to read this article. It's very short. It's not very long, but it's pretty damn amazing what they're doing. Behold, if you dare, the Israeli Deathstalker scorpion. Its sting is excruciating. Its venom can kill.
All right.
Sounds terrifying. Obviously, right?
Yeah, I don't want to die, so yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
Imagine putting your shoe on and getting stung by one of these bastards. So, but Dr. Jim Olson says it's actually beautiful. Beautiful because the Deathstalker's venom may revolutionize how cancer surgery is done.
Oh, okay.
And listen to this. There's actually a video on this too, and I'll link this in the show notes. Dr. Olson is a brain cancer physician and researcher at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle, Washington. And he says, we were inspired by a 16-year-old girl who had a brain tumor. He said, after 12 hours of surgery, the surgeons left behind a big piece of still cancerous brain tumor. And we decided that day to find a way to make the cancer light up so the surgeons could see it while they were operating, the exact area of cancer.
Right.
The key is the scorpion venom, synthetically reproduced, minus the poison, obviously. When injected into a patient's bloodstream, it sticks to the cancer cells, but not normal cells.
Wow.
Combine that sticky molecule with fluorescent dye, you've got what Olson calls tumor paint. So what problem does tumor paint solve? Sometimes it's really hard for a surgeon to tell what is cancer and what is normal. And think about that for a second. They're trained in this. This is what they see and do every day. And they still have a very hard time distinguishing, is that a healthy cell? Is that healthy tissue in the brain, or is that bad? Or is it healthy tissue in the body, or is it bad? So what they do, they overcompensate. They cut out, I think this is it. Let me cut out a section larger around it to make sure I get it all. Many times that's not successful. What happens? They have to go back in and find it.
Right.
So back to the story. Dr. Olson said, and in that brain, you can't take out a big chunk as normal just to make sure. Let me read that again. I kind of jumbled that. And in the brain, you can't take out a big chunk of normal just to make sure you've got the cancer.
Right.
And tumor paint distinguishes clearly the difference between brain cancer and normal brain in all of our experiments that we've done so far. So there's an image that they post that says, check it out, injected with tumor paint. There's no mistaking it, the tumor lights up. He goes, I think this will potentially be the biggest improvement in cancer surgery maybe in the last 50 years. So you can't see this very well, but there's a picture. You see it's green, and I'll post this. And there's the without the tumor paint. And this is with the tumor paint. Look at that, Colin.
That's cool.
So you can see every area that they would need to take out. There would be no question.
Right.
When we missed a little spot.
I see. So it literally just, it doesn't do anything to it just shows them where it is.
Where they need to go in and treat.
Wow.
So the Israeli Deathstalker scorpion, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Scorpion.
That's pretty amazing, right?
It's just like, okay, can I go back to killing something? Because this is, I'm not trying to help her. I'm trying to get meat out there and stinging something.
So I'm going to read this. Do you want to segue this? So, sorry, I just have to say this. Top 10 reasons why beer is better than Jesus.
Oh my God.
Number 10, no one will kill you for not drinking beer. Number 9, beer doesn't tell you how to have sex.
Oh my God.
Number 8, beer has never caused a major war. Number 7, they don't force beer on minors who can't think for themselves.
What about Prohibition, man? I mean, that was a decent war.
Number 6, when you have a beer, you don't knock on people's door trying to give it away.
Oh, my God. Now he's got the Jehovah's Witness.
I'm going to try to hit them all. I'm going to try to get everybody hating us. Number 5, nobody's ever been burned at the stake, hanged, or tortured over his brand of beer.
Now we're in the dark ages. Okay.
You don't have to wait 2,000 plus years for a second beer.
Oh my God. All right.
Number 3, there are laws saying beer labels can't lie to you. Number 2.
Yeah.
And this is true. Number 2, you can prove you have a beer.
Oh.
And number 1, if you've devoted your life to beer, there are groups to help you stop.
Oh my! You know what, man? I'm not gonna get struck by lightning with you. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just not gonna.
I had to. What you got, Colin? As I say, let me check.
Man, can we? Let me go to the wild card.
That was kind of my wild card, but go ahead. Yeah, it looks like we lost all of our viewers. I'm just kidding.
Just like, and we out of here.
Okay, go ahead, Colin. Sorry,
man. That uppercut at my chin. that was horrible. Well,
it's a comic segue.
It doesn't even remind me of it. There's no way to even segue into that. Into what I need to go to next. My wild card is just basically just this neat thing that happened to me. I was extremely sleepy on Saturday. 48 hours before that Saturday, I knew that I was going to have to work that night. I knew I was going to. Sometimes I'll do a early morning workout like at 4:30.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to sleep. And then I'll start with my clients for the day and then maybe take a nap and then go into my other tasks for the day. So I have a friend that has this organization. It's a neat name. It's Empire Realtors.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And they have this foundation that they actually formed because they want to build a house for a lady in need. She's not going to have to pay anything. We're going to raise all the money. The kicker is I didn't know anything about it until 48 hours before that Saturday. Mm-hmm. And the question was, Colin, I just need to ask you a question. I understand if you can't do it, just let me know, what your answer is. If it's no, so I can go on to the next one. I just want to ask you a question. And I'm thinking, what is this? And I call my friend, or actually I message my friend, and she's like, okay, we have a trainer that gets us ready for our run. And they also run with us. And I'm already like, oh my God, I gotta run. I'm just like, I don't want to run. I've been sore. Oh Lord. And then we run, and then we come back, and then you cool them off and stretch them out. And what's the easiest thing to say? No.
No, absolutely.
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna, all the things, all the reasons why you should say no. And dude, I was so exhausted. Like I'm just like, there's not going to be a way.
Yeah.
But I said yes. And all you have is your word.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you start lying to yourself and you start diminishing your integrity, you can't really get that back.
Yeah.
That's, your subconscious is like, hey, you lied to yourself. You know what I mean? So I said yes before I knew that I could, but I was just going to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
No sleep. I go. It's on the 30th floor of what is it? The L&C towers, actually. So I go up there. It's the most beautiful view that you've seen of Nashville ever. You can see the riverfront. You can see the Nissan Stadium. Mm-hmm. You could see, it was just beautiful, right? So I'm like, okay, all right. And then you go in, and these people are so fired up. They're not runners. They're volunteers that are donating. And, it's like, this is a cool thing to be a part of. And then we get warmed up. We go out and we take the most beautiful run through the city. We go down, what is it? 4th,
yeah,
up to Demonbreun. all the way across the pedestrian bridge, all the way back around by the Nissan Stadium. Right there, I'm like, wow, what is this? I look over to my right, and they're doing a mud runner, or tough runner, a tough mudder.
What is that, like a Spartan race?
It's a Spartan race, right? And I'm running, and I'm feeling great. I'm like, I feel great. I look over. It's one of my friends from Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
He has his partner on his shoulders doing a piggyback.
Wow.
He has to do a piggyback with him.
That was the mudder that you saw. Okay.
Right, the mudder. And then he does a piggyback back with them, and then they both run from that spot and then go forward.
Oh my God.
They had to go over these walls, and we're running
Man,
past.
if I had to do that with you, I would die.
That would suck. But I'm running past all this, and I'm like, wow, they're doing a 5K. They're doing like 3.5. We're doing 2.5.
Wow.
And I'm just like, you know what? I can up it a little bit, and I'm pushing, and it was the most beautiful experience that I've had from a yes. And that yes could have easily been no. And I ran past a lady, and she, her knee was hurting, and she was extremely tired. And I slowed my pace down, put my hand on her back, and I was telling her about breathing cadence and just trying to find a rhythm with your body and your breathing. And I was just pushing her, and she tried to stop and walk. I was like, no, let's just you tell your body what to do, not the other way around. Your body is a tool, so use it. And we trudged through, made it all the way to the end, took a picture, and I had so much energy and endorphins from that. On top of that, I'm a part of something now that is true philanthropy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're going to build a house for a woman, like,
so
for free.
We'll make sure that
we're going to post all that.
Yeah, we'll post it. I'll put it in the notes of Facebook and on the podcast. But that's interesting because we've kind of hit that in the past episodes. Sometimes the things that you really don't want to do, you do it and you get through it to the other side. I'm like, God, I'm so glad. This is one of those things.
Man, it was so amazing.
And it ended up being a transformational, impactful thing for you, and not only for the people that it's going to benefit. It's truly amazing.
And I was a substitute, and it was literally like going to a family reunion and meeting cousins that you really liked that you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
But and this is funny, and I know this is, whatever. But you weren't the substitute. It was supposed to be you, right? So
there you are.
So there you go. I can drop some good knowledge. Like I got one about every 6 months.
Shut up.
Yeah. So I'm going to cover something that's interesting that I did some research on, and this may bore the shit out of some people, but oh God, I said a cuss word. We're trying to refrain.
Oh, I cursed earlier, so whatever.
Yeah, trying to refrain because I found my.
But have you noticed I curse a lot less?
But I found my daughter. I was walking by her room. I heard dun dun dun. I was like, "Hey, that's the show." I was like, "No, hey, no, you got to turn the show off." She's 9 and probably shouldn't be listening to some of the things. A lot of the content's great.
She wants to listen though. She wants to hear what her dad's got to say.
A lot of the content obviously is I feel good, but sometimes we got some foul language up in here.
We be talking some shit.
So I want to talk about this effect called the Forer effect. Forer, F-O-R-E-R. It's also known as the Barnum effect. It's named for psychologist Bertram R. Forer. And what it refers to is the tendency of people to rate information as highly accurate for them personally, even though it could easily apply to a wide range of people. So, in essence, I want to fit in. I want to be a part. I want to be included.
Right.
I want to feel like I'm a part of everybody else.
Right.
So in the 1940s, Forer gave a series of personality tests to his students, but he completely ignored their answers and simply passed out a canned evaluation. So they answered the test.
Mm.
He didn't even look at it.
Right.
He gave one answer to everybody.
Okay.
So personality test. And he compiled it from various horoscopes, with each student receiving the exact same description, which said the following. You have a need for other people to like and admire you. Okay, before I read this, think about if you're reading this and how this could apply to you. Now, understand, Colin, you and I are a lot alike, but we also have our differences.
We're major.
People in our audience are a lot alike. They have their differences. We have our horoscopes and all these kind of things that make us different. But kind of close your eyes if you can. If you're driving, don't. I want you to wreck. But try to think about this and how this resonates with you, or it doesn't. You have a need for other people to like and admire you, and yet you tend to be critical of yourself. Mm. While you have some personality weaknesses, you are generally able to compensate for them. You have considerable unused capacity that you have not turned to your advantage. Discipline and self-control on the outside, you tend to be worrisome and insecure on the inside. At times, you have serious doubts as to whether you have made the right decision or done the right thing. You prefer a certain amount of change and variety and become dissatisfied when hemmed in by restrictions and limitations. You also pride yourself as an independent thinker and do not accept others' statement without satisfactory proof. But you have found it unwise to be too frank in revealing yourself to others. At times, you're extroverted, affable, and sociable, while at other times, you are introverted, wary, and reserved. Some of your aspirations tend to be rather unrealistic. Security is one of your major goals in life. So that was his canned response.
That's cool. The only one it's questionable, but I know a lot of people that don't need proof.
Yeah.
But all the others.
Isn't that amazing?
On.
So, okay, and here are the findings from the test that he did. After distributing the evaluations to each student, 4 asked each of them to rate evaluation on an accuracy scale. So he asked them, based on what I just gave you, how accurate was it describing you? So it was a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 being the most accurate, obviously. The class average was 4.26, meaning that students having different personalities each felt that the rubber stamp profile was 84% accurate in describing themselves. The test has been repeated hundreds of times over the decades since, and the rating average continues to hover right around 4.26%.
That's crazy.
The facts in the personality evaluation are specific enough to appear tailored for the individual, but are actually generic and vague enough to apply to many. This is the 4 effect at work. So it's our need to want to feel accepted and like everybody else. And we talk about this, the mindset, the intention, and things that we do. We try to find things to validate ourselves.
Well, at the end of the day, our ultimate goal is to feel significant.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it'll actually drive you crazy if you could take a person. I faded, man. Why didn't you tell me?
I'm sorry. I did it earlier, too. I know. I noticed when I was reading, I was like this. Like, Scott, where are you in a tunnel?
But if you think about it, man, like half the things that we do in our life it's a barometer.
Yeah.
You know, a barometer of significance. And, you know, everybody wants to be funny and wants to feel like they're liked and wants to feel like they're loved. And, you know, to this day, I like hugs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not super intimate, but it is one of those things that you can do that raises your endorphins in a holistic way, and it's pleasant, and it's not a selfish thing. You're giving as much as you're getting. And I feel like a lot of times when we go too deep into our defense mechanisms and we close ourselves off too much, we get desperate, and then we get out there and we do like a temper tantrum 2-year-old, and we steal attention. And if you get, man, I didn't want to go this route, but when you get into some of these things, that's a collective ignorance, and you look at things like racism, and you look at things like sexism, and you look at things like homophobia, and you look at things like politics, you start looking at it in a way of a temper tantrum 2-year-old, and you can't really be empathetic to what's really going on. Like, okay, I don't agree with that, but I can see that. But we're defensive, so I don't really understand that, so I'm going to miss this. So collectively, we just steal attention and neglect other people's significance barometer.
Yeah,
that needs to be filled, or a significant bucket, if you will. Like, I need a certain amount of attention, but it doesn't have to be stolen.
Exactly. I agree. So I want to read a quote. First, let me read. This is just something that popped up this morning for the show, but I thought it was kind of important. This is kind of a current event. I know we're running about an hour, and we'll cut it off here in a minute, but something that is important to me, because I have a lot of Hispanic friends and people that are, I mean, my wife became a U.S. citizen really not too long ago in the grand scheme of things, and she really could have been affected by this at some point. So I think about it because she's originally from Canada, for those that don't know. Uncertainty around immigration policies has made U.S. companies wary about hiring foreign tech workers. Interview requests to foreign candidates dropped 37% in the second quarter of 2017 compared to the same period the prior year.
Wow.
That's too close to half. Foreign workers are also accepting fewer interview requests from U.S. companies.
Huh.
So, used to be where everybody wanted to come, but they're worried now.
Right.
I've got a client right now that's having a difficult time. That he's, her husband has been here for years. He's having trouble getting his green card and his work visa renewed.
Right.
There's a chance that he could be sent back to Mexico.
Right.
And he's been a contributing, not a citizen, but work, pays his, does everything right. So it's just,
Well, there was one occurrence where this has happened recently. A green card candidate had a ticket, and because of that discrepancy was deported. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's a scary time for people. You think about it. If I'm in distress, I'm not going to function at my highest IQ level.
Yep.
I'm in a constant fight or flight, and I'm gonna be a little bit of a disadvantage of just being normal, because when you're having a fight or flight moment, you don't use your hypothalamus or the portion of your brain where your personality lies. You are survival mode, fight or flight, reptilian brain. Got to get out of here. You're not going to pass a test with that. You're not going to be able to interact with people with that. And I think, like I was saying earlier, which is a weird synchronicity, when you're in a constant state of defending, in a constant state of fear, in a constant state of all these things that affect you in a negative light, and you can't really own that you're in that state, and you start to build a character around that, you're literally cutting yourself off from people that might matter, and then you're building a group that are receptive to that, and then you create a group of people or you're involved with something that's actually a detriment to humanity.
Yeah. So the episode we did on unconscious bias,
exactly,
and how there are people. There's I can't remember what it's called, but where people then accept the label or the typical stereotype that they have. Just all black people like watermelon.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Or whatever. That you accept that, then you try to do ways to prove that you fit in that class.
Exactly.
And so that's the same thing as you've subscribed to that, and it's just validates what you're saying.
Exactly. There, so. You just create that. You create the role, and then you get really good at that role, and then there's no authenticity of who you are or who you were. But yeah, man, that's awesome.
Cool. So what else you got? Any?
Man, that's pretty much it. Typically, we stop with a little bit of advice or something, but
I'll read this quote again. Yeah, I'll read this quote again and see if it sparks anything with you, and then if not, we'll sign off.
All right.
Your limits to success are defined by the agreement you've made about what's possible. Change that agreement, and you can dissolve all these limits.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and end it with, if you can remember your limitless, you've got it covered. Mm-hmm. I thought about all the limits that I had, the no sleep and the blah, 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 all the reason to say no. Mm-hmm. And despite those, what illusionary limits, I had one of the best, most gratifying days that I've had in forever. Mm-hmm. And I value most of my moments, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, they're all for the good, but sometimes you don't really perceive them that way.
Yeah.
And your perception is your choice. Is it negative? Is it positive? Is it usable? Mm-hmm. You only win or you learn. Mm-hmm. And learning is hard and uncomfortable sometimes, but learning is moving forward. But if you win or lose, you're making that choice to choose that was a limit. And there's nowhere to go from there except for a better version of the person that thinks that way, or down even further. And there's further than that is depression and just like those football players, suicidal, apathy for your own existence is the most horrible thing that can happen to you. But it's nothing to judge. It's something that's possible. And it's your own responsibility to evaluate constantly with meditation and affirmations and surrounding yourself with the people that are going to actually uplift that side of you, and being exposed to those people that don't in a way that you're at least willing to learn from that situation. Because if you're not learning and you're agreeing and you're going into your unconscious bias and really starting to create this horrible role or version of yourself, you're going to get really, really good at going down that road that can, I don't know, highly plausibly end up in that apathy mode. And if you killed yourself, I don't know if you've seen that series where the girl kills herself at the end. If you look at that, it's a realistic look at how normal it looks for a person that's going down that road. You never know what's going to trigger that. That's enough. So that'd be my advice. Just really evaluate that mirror in a way that you grow, you live, you learn, or you win.
Yeah, life begins anew when you decide to make that change and live your life differently, right?
Absolutely.
It really does. So anyway, next Tuesday, Colin, we're really going to try to shoot Facebook peeps. We're going to try to shoot to start the live stream around 10, barring any weird setbacks. And then podcast people will have another episode dropping again next Friday. We'll have this episode drops this Friday. Of course, you can see it on Facebook. And Colin, I tell you, man, I've been bad about not uploading our videos to YouTube.
Oh, yeah?
I probably need to go in and put the rest of those up there, but there's so
shame and blame. That is not like you, Scott.
Well, there's just so little traffic there. And
I know, man, but you still got to put it there.
Yeah, it's time consuming to do. And I know a lot of people are viewing on Facebook, and a lot of people are consuming it audio. But yeah, I'll do that. I'll go back. We're probably 8 or 9 episodes needs to be uploaded. So whatever.
So let's talk about this for just 1 second. Scott has sold 10 houses this year. 10 houses.
Well, sold more than that since.
Oh, my bad. I'm behind. But he's rocking it, man.
Well, not this year. It's since May.
Since May, yeah. So that's awesome, man. I'm so proud of you. So proud of you.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. So anyway, until I wish we could continue on. We got so much we need to cover.
I have so much I want to say.
We're an hour 7 in. This is going to be one of our shortest shows we've done in a while.
I was worried it was going to be longer than that.
No, that's good. So anyway, until next week, I'm Scott.
It's Colin.
Out. All right, Facebook. Like I said, we'll tune you guys in hopefully at 10 o'clock next week, and we hope that you like. And I know it's maybe a bit uncomfortable, but try to share us next time. We want to get our viewership up and expose people to some of the things we're talking about. And so, you don't have to. I mean, I don't want you to feel like
you do. I'm sick of this shit, man. Share it.
But I want would like to get bring more people into the fold, I guess you could say.
Yeah, fold them in there.
Bring them on, yeah. So anyway,
go on, put it on your. Come on, hook us up, man. Come on, you can do it.
So I'm going to go in and cut the Facebook feed. Thank you guys again.
Thank you so much.